So in this video, we're going to talk about how to format your data and make the data easier to read. This is a lot of dense numbers, and we want to be able to make it a little easier to read and therefore a little easier to process. And so we're going to do two things primarily with this data. We're going to change some of the coloring, and we're also going to format the numbers so that they appear appropriately. Now, one thing to kind of keep in mind here, this is working in Sheets. Sheets is a little different than working it directly in Excel or other spreadsheets. So this is specifically about how Sheets works. I have uploaded the file that I'm working from into my Google Drive, and then I've opened it in Sheets. This was originally an Excel file, but once you upload it into Sheets, you can save it in any other file format as well. Now, what we're going to do first is we're going to format some of the numbers because that's actually the easiest thing to do. So these are dollar amounts that are being sold in the department, or the cost for the department. And one of the things you can see is that their numbers are kind of hard to read, especially when they get very large. There's no commas. And some of the numbers have no decimal places at all. Some of them have 1, some of them have 2. It's standard in English, in US dollars, to report no more than 2 decimal places. When we start doing calculations, we don't want to end up with 5, 6, or 7 decimal places. So formatting everything as currency as dollars is going to make the dollars all appear consistent, the same number of decimal places for every number. And then we don't have to worry about getting too many decimals or too few decimals. That makes the numbers more difficult to compare. The currency formatting will also add those commas to make the bigger numbers easier to read. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all of the numbers that we want to format, which is everything but the dates. And then there's a bunch of different ways that you can do this. You can go to Format and select the kind of number that you want, in which case we would want currency. You can also just select the dollar sign right here on the menu. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is that this has made a lot of the numbers much wider than they were before. And when you download this as an Excel sheet and then people try to read it, they're not going to be able to read it. The Excel will display several pound signs to indicate if the numbers are not wide enough to be displayed properly. So what you'll want to do is make sure that all of your columns are wide enough to display all of the numbers fully and not get cut off. And so by highlighting all of the columns and then double clicking on the margin, what that's going to do, and this works in Excel as well, what it will do is it will widen all of the columns wide enough to display the contents of every cell with the right width. So it'll take whatever's widest and it will set the width to be just big enough to do that. Now, the other thing that you can do to make the numbers easier to read is to do some color, either in terms of the text color or in terms of the background color. You can also do things like adding borders. So if you wanted to, for instance, add a border to, like, say, the headings, not the numbers themselves, just as an example, you have a bunch of different choices here. You can add all the borders. You can add only the interior borders if you prefer. You could add just the horizontal borders or no borders at all. And there are different ways that this looks, and you can experiment with what you think works best for you. I, for my purposes, kind of like these vertical borders because they give nice structure to the columns. And of course, that's something that you can easily do with the remaining rows. We can also add these horizontal borders. Now, another thing that you can do is you can change the color. So maybe I want the headers to be a slightly different color than the rest of the text. If you click on the fill here, you can change the color. Now, I want to caution against using a really dark color, because then the black text won't appear very easy to read. And then you would have to also change the text color so that it displays nicely. You can go ahead and just change the background color to a, again, relatively lighter color, and then the black text will work fine. If you have text that you want to highlight in particular, some particular value that you want to flag, that's also a good reason to, for instance, to maybe play around with the format, the color of the print. Now, I did the headers in one color, but I think what I would like to do is to highlight the sales versus the cost in some fashion. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to highlight these, and maybe we'll use like a pale orange here for the sales. Now, the limitation here, of course, is that in Excel, there are some like ways that you can just fill out the tables all the same way with some preset table methods. But in Sheets, you may need to do them individually. And depending on the kind of styling that you want to do, you may also need to do that individually in Excel. Now, I will eventually leave all of the cost the same, since once you highlight the sales, they already are sort of set off from the cost. But you can, of course, if you want, go through and adjust all of the costs to be a different color as well. It's all about sort of appearance. We're trying to make the data as easy to read as possible. And having a consistent formatting of some sort can be very, very beneficial for that, in terms of highlighting specific content. So the sales will pop out, and then that will automatically make the cost stand out as well. Another strategy that you can use is to, oh, I picked a slightly different color here. Another strategy that you can use is alternating lines. So we might want, for instance, and for this one, I will change the font color just a little bit, maybe make it dark blue, and that will make it easier as you read across the line to guarantee that you are actually reading from the line that you are trying to read from. You can also do this with color coding. So if we chose something like this pale yellow, and you can also format these with your own custom colors if you prefer. But again, the idea here is to make the data easier to read. And there's lots of different strategies that you can employ for that purpose. And you should use any combination of them that makes it easier to display and read the data, to visually associate sales with sales and cost with cost, or as you're reading across to know that, okay, this was the top blue line, and therefore when I get down to the end, I can still tell, like, this is the top blue line that I'm still looking at. Now, when you are done with all of the data that you're going to use, then you will want to export the file. And to export your file, you will go to File and then select Download. For this assignment, you have to turn things in as an Excel file, and so you should select the Excel option. While the PDF will preserve the appearance of the sheet better than converting to Excel, because there are some compatibility issues. For this assignment, we need to see the formulas that you're applying. And therefore, we can't have the PDF. We need to have the Excel file. Now, one other thing that I will note before we leave is that you can also, when you calculate percentages, and we'll talk about this in a future video for profit margins, you will want to format your profit margins as percentages. And that is a very common formatting choice. And so the format as percent button is here right next to the format as currency button.